You know that feeling. When you're brainstorming something, maybe a sensitive work project using an AI chatbot, and then, like, moments later, you start seeing ads for competitors. Or maybe you'll look up some personal health stuff and suddenly, bam, specific product ads everywhere. That little feeling of unease, it's not just you being paranoid, it's kind of a symptom of how things work online now, where your private thoughts, your curiosity, it often gets treated like a commodity. So today, we're doing a deep dive into something really interesting, a new player that's trying to, well, fundamentally rewrite that whole script. We're talking about PreGPT. It's an AI built, they say, from the ground up to actually respect your privacy. Our mission here is to really unpack what makes it different, how it tackles these big privacy worries, and maybe most importantly, why this shift matters for you, navigating this increasingly AI-driven world. Just so you know, our chat today is mostly based on insights from a Chip Sanity article called Meet PreGPT, the privacy-first chatbot built by the people, not big tech.
Okay, so let's unpack this problem first.
When you look at the big AI chatbots out there, the popular ones, the core issue really often boils down to their basic setup, their architecture. Most of them run on these huge centralized cloud systems, owned by just a few giant tech companies. And yeah, that concentration of power, it's great for scaling things up quickly, no doubt. But it also creates this single point of control. And, well, we've seen it again and again, that often becomes a single point of failure for our privacy. It's a trade-off many of us make, sometimes without even realizing it.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here, it's not just that your data can be logged, it's how this whole centralized model shapes the basic economics of these companies. AI is fast becoming this essential tool, like a utility, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But it's mostly controlled by these few firms whose entire business model often thrives on gathering massive amounts of data. So your prompts, the conversations you have, what you show interest in, all of it can be logged, analyzed, and then potentially used to train their next models, or, worse, for highly specific targeted advertising.
Right. That's the unnerving part.
And this often happens by default. You usually have to dig deep to opt out, if you even can effectively. Sometimes even if you think you've opted out, it's not always clear what's happening behind the scenes. The system is basically designed to extract value from everything you do digitally.
Yeah.
You end up being the product, not really the customer.
And that right there, that's exactly why something like PreGPT feels so, well, necessary. It seems like a direct response to that whole situation. It seems built for those of us who've maybe hesitated, wanted to use AI because it's powerful, but felt really reluctant because it always felt like this unavoidable trade-off.
Yeah.
Like you have to give up your personal data just to get the convenience. It's for anyone who's just tired of having their digital thoughts turned into profit for someone else. Okay, so keeping those sort of systemic issues in mind, it really begs the question, what does a truly privacy-first AI actually look like? How does it work? Let's focus on PreGPT itself now. So at its core, what is it? It's a privacy-focused generative AI chatbot developed by Presearch.
Right, and Presearch itself is interesting. It's already a decentralized, kind of blockchain-based search engine.
Exactly. So think of Presearch as distributing its work across lots of computers, not just one big company's servers, using blockchain to manage it all. And PreGPT kind of extends that mission. It aims to give you uncensored, unbiased, authentic answers. And here's the key part, the real game changer. It does all this without storing your chat data. It doesn't use your conversations to train its models. It's just a fundamentally different philosophy.
And if we zoom out a bit, connect this to the bigger picture, this focus on decentralization and using open source models, it's absolutely critical if you genuinely want privacy. Think about it. When the AI runs on a decentralized network, there isn't one single company quietly building this massive profile on you.
Okay, so no giant database holding everything.
Precisely. Your data isn't all sitting in one vulnerable spot waiting to be, misused or leaked. And this structure itself, it inherently changes the incentives. It minimizes the drive to track everything you do because PreGPT's whole business model isn't based on surveillance capitalism. It's not about harvesting your data to sell you back to advertisers. It's focused on actually providing the AI service itself. And then there's the open source angle, using models like Mistral 7B.
Which is known for being pretty efficient, right?
Yeah.
Good performance without needing massive resources.
Exactly. It's a well-regarded open source model. And using models like that brings a level of transparency that these closed, proprietary, black box systems just can't match. Anyone technically can look under the hood, audit how these models work. That leads to more accountability. And it often leads to faster innovation, too, because you have a whole global community contributing, not just one company's R&D lab.
Makes sense.
Plus, with decentralized compute, meaning the actual processing happens across many independent machines, maybe sourced from networks like salad.com, which uses idle power from gamers' PCs and things like that.
Right, it's heard of that model.
You get less vendor lock-in. You're not tied to one big cloud provider. And that drastically lowers the risk of sudden policy changes, the rug being pulled out from under you regarding how your data is handled. So it really makes you ask, are we building digital tools that demand our blind faith, or are we building systems that are trustworthy because of how they're designed?
That's a really powerful point. So what we're seeing here, it's not just a technical adjustment. It's more like a philosophical shift. It's about giving you, the user, your agency back,
Right.
protecting your privacy, giving you actual freedom of choice. But okay, playing devil's advocate for a second. For someone used to the sheer scale of, say, Google or OpenAI with their massive resources, is there a risk that these decentralized open source approaches might, lag behind a bit, maybe in cutting edge features or just raw power, at least initially?
That's a totally fair question. And it's definitely a challenge for this new wave of AI. But the goal, I think, for PreGPT and others like it is precisely to prove that you don't have to sacrifice capability to get privacy. Sure, the absolute largest proprietary models might have an edge today in some very specific niche areas or just sheer scale, but the pace of innovation in open source AI, it's incredibly fast right now. So PreGPT leverages these powerful, respected open source models and then combines that with distributed computing power to try and ensure really good performance. It's maybe less about being the absolute biggest and more about being the best at delivering AI that's both private and capable.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So moving beyond the architecture, the sort of under the hood stuff, what are some of the practical advantages, the actual features that PreGPT offers users day to day? What does it feel like to use?
Well, first off, there's the promise of uncensored and unbiased responses. The idea is you get impartial information on all sorts of topics without it being filtered through, say, corporate interests or maybe even governmental influence.
Oh,
In a world where information can be so easily, curated or spun,
right.
that commitment to impartiality feels pretty important. It helps counter those echo chamber effects we hear about. You get the info you ask for, not just the info someone wants you to see. And then there's that freedom from big cloud that we kind of touched on. By using decentralized compute, maybe through networks like salad.com, it really cuts down the chance of hidden data sharing.
Because the processing is spread out, right? Not all in one place.
Exactly. It's distributed across independent nodes, making it way harder for any single entity to track or log your conversations comprehensively. And it also helps you avoid that frustrating problem where, the terms of service suddenly change overnight and you have little say in it. It feels like it's building a more resilient system overall, not just funneling everything into a few giant companies. And crucially, this idea of delivering power without that privacy price tag. We just talked about that perception, that maybe privacy tools are slower or not quite as smart. PreGPT seems determined to challenge that directly, combining good open source models with this distributed computing. The aim is to give you a conversational AI that's both really useful and genuinely respectful of your space, so you should get fast, helpful answers. Flexible outputs, too, like summaries, brainstorming help, explanations, even drafting text. But crucially, your prompts don't automatically become fodder for someone else's training data. It offers this genuinely private space where you can think out loud, research things that might be sensitive. Ask those questions you might hesitate to ask elsewhere, without worrying about being profiled. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Is my curiosity truly mine online, or is it constantly up for grabs?
Absolutely. Your curiosity should belong to you. It shouldn't be treated as a commodity. And PreGPT does support, the standard AI chat functions you'd expect. It handles multiple languages. It even offers some advanced stuff, like custom system prompts, which let you kind of fine-tune how it behaves for specific tasks. Now, it's true, it might lack some of the, let's say, flashier elements like image generation that you see in some other big tools.
Okay, so maybe not creating pictures, but focused on the text interaction.
Exactly. The focus seems to be on a clean, functional interface that really delivers on that core promise: privacy and utility. It's about the integrity of your conversation rather than maybe adding every single bell and whistle.
Okay, so let's bring this back to the listener. What does this all mean for you? Who is PreGPT actually for? Well, based on the source, if you're someone who's already privacy conscious, feels a bit watched online, and you're actively looking for safer ways to use AI, PreGPT sounds like it's right up your alley. It also seems incredibly valuable for professionals who absolutely need confidentiality. Think about lawyers dealing with case details, healthcare workers with patient info, journalists protecting sources, maybe founders trying to safeguard their new ideas.
Anywhere where confidentiality is paramount.
Right, and students, researchers,
Hmm.
anyone who wants to explore topics freely without building up this permanent digital trail. And honestly, it sounds like it's also just for everyday folks who want to ask questions, learn things, use AI, but don't want to be turned into a detailed marketing profile in the process. If you've ever had that thought, I want the benefits of AI, but I really don't want to be the product, then PreGPT is positioned as, well, maybe your exit ramp from that system.
And it's really important to grasp that this isn't just a small tweak on the existing AI model. It really is a fundamentally different foundation. If we quickly compare PreGPT to the more traditional chatbots, traditional ones, usually centralized servers, closed source models, tracking is often the default setting, and data retention policies can be murky or change frequently.
Okay, the standard setup we've been discussing.
Right. PreGPT, on the other hand, it uses decentralized compute, open source models. It's designed explicitly with privacy first, and the architecture aims for transparency. It's a stark contrast in philosophy and technology. And practically speaking, how do you access it? It's available right at chat.presearch.com. And it ties into the whole Presearch ecosystem, which, as we mentioned, is decentralized itself and even has things like PRE tokens.
That's their cryptocurrency, right? We're
No.
using the network.
Exactly. It powers the network. Users can earn it, use it for services like ad-free search, or trade it. It connects user participation directly to the platform's value. And it's worth mentioning the versions. PreGPT 2.0 launched back in February 2025, bringing upgrades, more powerful models, less censorship, more recent data. There's a basic plan, about $2 a month, using that Mistral 7B model via Salad.com's network, good for standard English chats. Then there's a pro plan, around $5 a month. That gives you access to higher-powered models, more advanced features, running through Venice.ai's API, another distributed compute provider, and you can pay for that with PRE tokens or just a regular credit card. So again, this isn't just a minor adjustment. It's a different approach, fundamentally designed to empower users, not primarily to harvest their data.
Right. So let's try and wrap this up, bring it all back home. The core takeaway here feels pretty simple, actually. PreGPT is offering a powerful AI chatbot, but one that answers to you. Not to some huge, faceless, big cloud company, not to advertisers trying to figure out your every desire, and not to some hidden agenda or suddenly changing corporate rules. It really feels like it's about putting the user back in the driver's seat of their own digital interactions.
Yeah, and thinking about the bigger picture, the implications here are quite significant. AI is rapidly weaving itself into the fabric of our daily lives, isn't it? How we learn, how we shop, how we work, how we connect.
Absolutely, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it really shouldn't require us to place blind trust in these opaque black boxes controlled by just a tiny number of companies. PreGPT, and hopefully others like it, demonstrate that it is possible to have powerful, cutting-edge AI without giving up control over our personal data or our digital identities. This whole approach, decentralized, open, privacy first, it's maybe not just a niche thing for tech geeks anymore. It could be, maybe should be, a crucial foundation for a healthier, more transparent, and ultimately a more user-respecting internet.
Well said. And, at the end of the day, you don't need to be a privacy expert or a technologist to care about this stuff. You just need to have a choice that actually respects your privacy. So maybe something to think about. Consider trying PreGPT next time you need to search for something or brainstorm an idea. Compare it. See how the experience feels compared to whatever AI assistant you might be using now, especially thinking about that privacy angle. Maybe even bring in your tougher questions, the ones you might normally hesitate to type into a search bar or another AI. And just notice the difference it makes. Knowing you have a genuinely private space to think, to explore, to learn, it might just change how you feel about interacting with AI altogether.